This is the final session of the of the public hearing today. I thank deputations for coming. Before you speak, I'd like to remind you the following. You'll be invited to speak for 3 minutes, and on reaching 3 minutes, the timer will sound a beep and reminding you that the time is up. And if you have written submissions after the meeting, you can give your submission to the Secretariat. And I also like to remind deputations here that your speech here is not protected by the Legislative Legislative Council Powers and Privileges Ordinance, nor are the written submissions that you send in. And you can choose to use the earpiece available to you. We have 3 channels, Channel 1 Cantonese, Channel 2 English, Channel 3 Putonghua. And to remind everyone here, there is a sheet on the points of note for members of the public attending meetings in this Legislative Council. There are security measures, and the information has been included in the letter sent by the Secretariat to you. And if necessary, you can get these points to note from staff here. So let's start. First, Mr. Lai Wing-chun, 3 minutes. Thank you, Chairman. Hong Kong Association of Cultural Interchange. I'm Lai Wing-chun. In relation to the consultation document on the method for selecting the chief executive by universal suffrage, the second round consultation has to do with whether Hong Kong people can exercise their right to have one person, one vote to select their chief executive. In order to ensure that in 2017 we can have selection of CE by universal suffrage, the electoral method should be in strict compliance with the Basic Law and the August 31st NPCSC decision. And our association has the following points to make. The August 31st NPCSC decision clearly stipulates that the nominating committee is to be set up with 1,200 members, which is broadly representative. In accordance with the existing EC composition, it should be composed of 38 subsectors in 4 sectors. There should not be any change to the 38 subsectors in 4 sectors. The composition and the number of members should remain the same. This is in line with the August 31st decision and the spirit of the Basic Law to have a broadly representative committee, so as to balance interests of all sectors. In relation to the procedures for nominating committee to nominate chief executive candidates, our association proposes that it be divided into 2 stages, that is, members' recommendation and committee nomination. At members' recommendation stage, a candidate jointly nominated by 150 members of the EC could become eligible candidates. This can allow more candidates to be nominated and for more choices to be made available to the NC members and the public. And we also propose secret ballot for the voting procedure of NC. Once the NC is formed, it will not be subject to any influence from any sector. Now, in the event of vacancy, In order to facilitate a re-election of the CE as soon as possible, our proposal is to have to maintain the 5-year term of office. Your time is up. Next, Mr. Louis Chong. Chairman, members, I'm from the Association of Zhuangzi, Culture and Research of Hong Kong, and we support the proposal set down under the framework of the Basic Law and the August 31st NPCSA decision. As for any changes, our suggestion is that the nominating committee should be formed on the basis of the 38 subsectors in the 4 sectors of the EC as the basis. The composition should not be changed. Secondly, this is the unprecedented opportunity for a one-person, one-vote universal suffrage of the selection of CE. We understand that it is an important milestone representing democratic development. To change from a 1,200 strong EC to a 5 million one-person or to a one-person, one-vote universal suffrage by 5 million of Hong Kong. There isn't much time left for discussion in the community for the NC, so we suggest that everything should remain status quo so as to be more pragmatic. And each NC member should only be allowed to choose 2 to 3 candidates, and there must not be any duplication. And the NC should proceed with voting the candidates in an open ballot manner, so as to allow equal opportunities for different candidates to explain their manifestos and ideas to all NC members and the public, so as to have fair and just election. And to maintain the sovereignty of the state, the CPG has substantive appointment power over the chief executive. If the chief executive elect is not to be appointed by the CPG, to improve the integrity of our legal system and prevent a constitutional crisis, the NC should kickstart the nominating procedure again, and the CEO should be revised or amended. And to maintain neutrality and independence of the CE, the provisions in the CEO in relation to the requirement that the CE should not have any political affiliation should be maintained. We also suggest that all members of the NC and the CE elect or the candidates must pledge allegiance with the PRC and the Hong Kong SAR and should follow the Constitution and the Basic Law to show their love for and loyalty for Hong Kong, failing which their eligibility should be revoked. With political bickerings in the community nowadays, I hope that members across the political spectrum can all vote for the proposal so as to safeguard the right of Hong Kong people to have one person, one vote. Thank you. The time is up. Next, Mr. Benny Lau. I represent the Hong Kong United Youth Exchange Foundation. We support the proposal set in accordance with the framework of the Basic Law and the August 31st basic NPCSA decision. We have the following suggestions to make. First of all, the NC should comprise 1,200 members in 38 subsectors in 4 sectors in accordance with the existing composition of the EC, and the method for forming the NC should also remain the same. There is no need to change the composition of the existing 38 subsectors. And the stage of nomination should be divided into 2, being members' recommendation and committee nomination. And the terms of office of the CE should be one of 5 years, and so that in the event of a casual vacancy, there could be a re-election. And in terms of the voting procedure, it could be either the 2-round voting or supplementary vote system. And if the CPG doesn't appoint the CE elect, there should be a re-election, and the CEO should be amended to include the arrangement for election. Point number 5, the CE elect should not have any political affiliation. Number 6, there should be a stage for organizations to have vetting over the qualifications and the background of the prospective CE candidates according to the basic law. There are also other stipulations. So, for example, they should be accountable to the CPG. They should pledge allegiance with the Hong Kong SAR and the CPG. Next, Mr. Chow Chun Ming. Thank you, Chairman. I represent Yau Ma Tei Concern for Resident Rights Association. Now, about the consultation on the method for selecting the chief executive by Universal Suffrage, our association has the following views. First of all, we support the proposal to implement universal suffrage in 2017 as soon as possible. In terms of democratic development, if we can, it will be a big leap for us to change from a 1,200 small circle election to 5 million voters taking part in the election. And the proposal should be within the framework of basic law and August 31st NPCSC decision. So I have the following 3 points on the consultation document. The NC's makeup should be made on the basis of the EC, comprising 38 subsectors in 4 sectors. Composition method of forming the subsectors should remain the same. It should follow the existing arrangement for the EC, as the 38 subsectors cover every aspect of society, and this can minimize bickering in society. Secondly, the nominating procedure can be divided into 2 stages: members' recommendation and committee nomination. At the first stage, a candidate jointly nominated or recommended by 150 members of the NC could become eligible members. Each NC could only nominate 1 member or recommend 1 member, and in the second stage, we can vote on each and every eligible candidates. The first 3 candidates with highest number of endorsement or more than half of the NC members could formally become candidates. And we propose that the first past the post system be adopted for the voting procedure because the system is easier to understand and the cost is lower. Next, Mr. Chen Chi-ho. Well, now the CE election only involves 1,200 members of the EC. If this constitutional package is passed, in future, we don't have an EC, just a nominating committee. And the nominating committee will be limited to nominating 2 to 3 CE candidates. Following that, every eligible voter in Hong Kong can exercise 1 person, 1 vote to select the CE, which means the powers of the EC or NC members will be confined after passage of the proposal. And at the same time, power or the people's right in voting for CE will increase. This is, in fact, progress in the pursuit of democracy. And I agree, of course, that there is still room for improvement in terms of the proposal, but we can't call this just a minor step. So we should pass this proposal, which is more democratic, for 2017 before we further pursue a greater room for democratic development. Why is it that we must veto this proposal and then ask for a more aggressive proposal? Why can't we take a step forward for democratic development first in order to pursue democracy further?
And according to the surveys conducted at a lot of universities, even though some members of the public are not satisfied with the decision by NPCSC, and under the NPCSC decision, there are people who think this decision should not be adhered to, but they are not the majority, and as such, we should. I think we should. It's in line with public opinion that we pass this proposal first of this proposal for political reform, and after it's passed, we can further improve it. But the assumption is that we must pass this proposal for the universal suffrage of the 2017 CE, but without it, we have no basis for further improvements. So I think we should. Pass this proposal first. Mr. Peter Shiu. On the method of selecting the 2017 CE, the Liberal Party's line is very simple. We should adhere to the we support it as long as it adheres to the Basic Law and the MPCSC decision. It's as simple as that. I've been chatting with my friends, and one of my friends said for the 1,200-strong nominating committee, and he said the 5 million voters should be more involved. And another friend says he wants real universal suffrage. And that friend is of the opinion that universal suffrage can only be achieved if everyone can vote. And my third friend asked about the nomination threshold for the nominating committee. And different people have different opinion on where the nomination threshold is. And some people think it's the threshold should be 50,000. Some people say it's 10,000. Some people think it's only 10. And a lot of people were arguing. And while my friends were arguing, a cleaner passed by and she said, "Why should we have a nomination threshold altogether? I should be able to nominate myself. That should be the ultimate aim." And all my friends fell silent at that time. So how does this self-nomination work? Does it mean that all 5 million voters in Hong Kong can run for the chief executive, and does it mean they can vote for themselves? What is actually meant by real universal suffrage is different everywhere in the world. And for example, ISIS proposes revenge. Does it apply in Hong Kong? Since the handover, the political system has been improving year by year. And right now, 5 million voters have the right to vote. Why don't the pan-democrats give the Hong Kong public a chance to choose a CE they want? And I'd also like to mention that supposedly we have 3 nominees. They must have your approval. You are the ones who can choose the CE. If we don't move forward, then we will only have 1,200 people who are able to vote. Mr. Andrew Fan Chun-Wah, we've been talking about universal suffrage all day long, and I'd like to share my view. According to the decision by MPCSC made on the 31st August on the selection of the chief executive of Hong Kong in 2017, some people would describe the decision as setting gates, and I don't agree with this view. The nominating committee was formed by election, and they are broadly representative of all walks of Hong Kong. And as the chief executive of Hong Kong, they have to obtain at least 50% of the support from the nominating committee, and I think this is rather democratic. I agree that democracy is very important for Hong Kong. So as soon as we can adopt this proposal of 1 person, 1 vote, there's very little chance of regressing. if we are pragmatic, if we are being pragmatic and take an orderly approach, one day we can have a fairer, I won't say absolutely fair, but we will have a fairer universal suffrage in the future. So I hope more people can take part in the consultation so that the government can establish a universal suffrage solution that can satisfy most people. Next, Mr. Chim Sheng, Chairman. A lot of members mentioned that we have to adhere to the 31st August decision by the MPCSC. I hope that we can have quality discussions in this consultation exercise. Of course, the consultation must be conducted according to the 31st August decision. But that said, I think there's room to maneuver the MPCSC decision. I have three specific suggestions. Some people propose introducing a youth sector in the nominating committee. I know it's technically difficult to implement, but the government should really allow more youth to represent this NC. And second, we should have 3 nominees, and if they go past the 50% threshold, they can become the chief executive. And next, Mr. Eddie Chen Longsheng. Thank you, Chairman, members, Undersecretary. My name is Eddie Chen. I'm sure all of Hong Kong look forward to the universal suffrage of the CE in 2017. Universal suffrage is very important to Hong Kong, and I have several points to make. First, the composition of forming method of the nominating committee. I think we should still keep the 4 sectors, and in the functional constituencies, we should introduce youth constituencies to allow more young people to speak up. And for the nomination process, we should have 2 phases: a member's nomination and committee nomination, and each member can only nominate 1 candidate each time. And as before, we should have support of 150 members before a candidate can become a nominee. And 2 or 3 nominees who receive 50% of the threshold will be able to go to the next stage. And we should have a 2-round voting system or a first past the vote system, which are relatively simpler, so that the government doesn't have to invest vast resources. And the nominating committee should convene meetings and invite candidates to explain their manifestos. And under the existing chief executive election ordinance, the requirement that the CE elect should not have any political affiliations should be retained. I've been thinking about one question. Some members of the public or legislators oppose to the political reform. I wonder whether these people are really opposing to the political reform proposal, or are they afraid that they cannot get enough support in the nominating committee? In other words, for the opposition legislators, if they can obtain the majority support in the nominating committee, are they still going to reject the proposal? This is a question we should think about. I hope all the lawmakers can help Hong Kong move forward with its political development, and I hope everyone can vote for the next CE on a 1-person, 1-vote basis. Ms. Vincenza Chen Winky. Personally speaking, I support the political reform. Everything must have a framework. We are fighting for a whole new political election system. This is something Hong Kong had not experienced before. So this is, we can only estimate and what will happen. right now the views seem to be polarized. Some people are all against, some people are all for. There's no gray area, but in reality, most people belong to the gray area, so there's a lot of room for discussion. A lot of young people seem to be opposed to the proposal, so I think the government should work harder on PR efforts, because the youth has not heard my views. And in the mass media, most news reports seem to be against the proposal. But what is the reason? I think most young people don't yet know what they want, but they are very clear what they don't want. So I think the government has not explained to the young people very clearly what their privileges are and what they will lose over the course of the exercise. If you are opposing for the sake of it, then if you can solve all the problems by rejecting the proposals, and we won't have any challenges to solve. Some people think that we only have 2 or 3 nominees, it won't be broadly representative. But if you think you represent the majority of the public, or the choice of the majority, why don't you divert your efforts in helping someone you want to become a nominee? We have wasted a lot of time arguing. These discussions can be lengthy, but then we are going nowhere. So can we wait? Can our young people wait? And oftentimes in discussions at the LegCo, they are often broadcasted or televised. I hope you can follow some basic respect or etiquette. A lot of students and children are watching. Even when you're fighting for something you want, you shouldn't be throwing your tantrums around. And this culture is really unhealthy, and as such, our youth will find it very difficult to develop their careers. I represent the Hong Kong Federation of Fujian Association. I've talked with a lot of teachers, and I agree with what this lady said just now. Our lawmakers are setting very bad examples for our students. Before the Occupy Central movement, from what I see in schools, the students were negatively influenced. In the last few months, they have behaved very badly. So I can see the bad impacts of Occupy Central, because I can personally feel it. So I think we should change by. We should start setting some good examples instead of encouraging our students to resort to violence to destroy the rule of law in Hong Kong.
Next, Mr. Ho Wing Kit. Chairman, members, Undersecretary, good evening. First of all, I agree with my 2 predecessors. I recall that a day or 2 ago, there was a member in this council clipping his nails during a meeting and then swearing at the other member. And this is really bad example. I'd like to focus on one point in this consultation document. The government should be held accountable if it doesn't proposes a package for LegCo's approval. Now, the basic law says the following. Article 159 of the Basic Law, only the NPCSC has the right to, or the NPC has a right to make decisions. The NPCSC only gives decisions and interpretation so we can only regard the decision as a form of comment. It has no binding power. Not binding effect. So the government is actually kowtowing to the government itself. And it's very clear that according to the 5-step process, you need to go through step 3, that is to have legislative endorsement before moving on to step 4. That is for approval by the National People's Congress. And the pandemics reiterates a lot of times that if the government follows the proposal set under the August 31st MPCSC, the proposal will be vetoed, and the government has in fact been derelicting its duties by not communicating thoroughly with the Pandemic Democratic Camp. And Mr. Rimsky-Yuen also said that if the proposal is not in compliance with the NPCSC decision, even if the proposal is passed, ultimately it will be rejected by the NPC. But instead of waiting for step 5 for it to be rejected, so to speak, is it logical really to put forward proposal in step 3, which will definitely be voted down? The logic is that we should see through the passage of package before it is submitted to the CPG for endorsement. The government should do its job properly. I believe that even if the proposal is, so to speak, not in compliance with the NPCSC decision on the 31st of August, the NPC, if the proposal is passed, ultimately the NPC will have the political wisdom to give endorsement. But before I invite members to ask questions, I will ask Mr. Lau Kwong-wah, Under Secretary, to respond to the deputations. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, all of you, for giving your views here on a Saturday evening. It's after 7 p.m. Now, some deputations indicated their support for our work in implementing universal suffrage for CE election in 2017. Some of them mentioned the following. It is a big leap. It will be a big leap for us to enable 5 million eligible voters to take part in the CE election. And I agree with that. And some also said that we should look at the whole big picture and we should progress step by step as far as the pursuit of democracy is concerned. And I appeal to more members of the public to speak out. Now, some say that the one person, one vote for the CE election will be unprecedented. In the coming months, there will be a chance for us to implement this. Indeed, it is unprecedented. As a member of the administration, of course, we will spare no effort in pushing forward our work. Just now, there were some who spoke about the rationale of the pandemics in opposing the proposal. Now, we're talking about the setting up of a system. A system is not set up to serve any individual, any political party, or any government. This system set up will serve the people for a long time, and we are not excluding anyone from the system. At the same time, we cannot guarantee the participation of any individual or party. So from the nomination by the NC in the course of fielding candidates and in the course of the voting procedure, everything will be in the open, and we seek to enhance transparency. And this is some form of a primary election. In the primary election, the prospective candidates will need to face up to 7 million Hong Kong people. And if they successfully are qualified to be candidates for the CE election, they also have to face the 5 million voters, and the process will be a very competitive one. It's difficult to say for sure who can exit the gate and who can't. So 2 points are very important. The first point is that we must set up a system, and the second point is that we should allow 5 million eligible voters to make use of the opportunity. So please do speak out. We have 2 other members of the public who have just arrived. Ms. Wong Man Man, 3 minutes. Good evening, Chairman. A free society means that a person should have endorsement in relation to his own way of living. About the government's proposal, it is disrespectful of the people's right to be able to choose. About this pocket it first proposal, let's compare it with the existing system. There is this 3-gate limit in this pocketed first proposal. There is also another constraint in the sense that there would only be 2 to 3 candidates. Ultimately, the CE elect could claim to have public mandate, but in fact, this is only limited. How can such a chief executive represent everyone in Hong Kong? And the government has continued to persuade us to pocket it first because the government says that it is better to have improvement than have nothing at all. And my question is this: how can this administration give an undertaking on behalf of the next administration? If, say, we accept it, then in future will we really be able to improve on the existing system? How can the existing administration give an undertaking for the next administration? By then, the number of seats in LegCo, the composition of LegCo may be very different. There is no guarantee that this promise will be honored, and the government doesn't have any way to convince us to accept it. Finally, in short, to conclude, I hope the government will have the sincerity to come up with a system that has true competition instead of setting up gates and force people to accept. Next, Mr. Wong, Benson Wong. Yesterday, a 5-year-old child, on understanding that I would be going to LegCo to comment on constitutional development, told me that one should not lie, or one's nose would grow like the puppet in Pinocchio. So even the child understands that one mustn't lie, and he also understands that a lot of adults are lying. Now, I treated that child sweet, and let's bear in mind that this is a piece of sweet, not something else, not tofu, not something else. And the child was brought to a nightclub by the adult. And the adult told the child that there would be candies inside, so on and so forth. Of course, the child never got the candy. And after coming out from the nightclub, the child was just hurled to one corner and beaten up in the dark corner. So, frankly, the government also understands that they are only being perfunctory. They're not active enough in their work because they're waiting for the CPG's instructions. Now, of course, there are associations, underground associations, so to speak, to in support of the government's proposal today. But of course, we understand that they're just copying and pasting the same paragraphs for written submissions to be made. And let's bear in mind that we need to know the truth. And the so-called universal suffrage proposal doesn't give people the right to nominate or stand in election, so it is no genuine universal suffrage. In 2017, according to the government's proposal, it will be a change from the 1,200 member EC to the so-called voting by 5 million eligible voters. So this is about a choice between true dictatorship and fake democracy. Be it the executive's dominance or functional constituencies, well, we continue to fight against this unfair system. However, if you choose the fake democracy proposal, you'll be like the child. In the end, you'll be beaten up without getting anything at all. And a child also told me, a young person also told me that they would go against the government for destroying their home. Who would like to speak? Mr. Leung Kwok-ho. I'd like to remind some people here who say that the Pan-Democrats are really going against the wishes of the people. And I reiterate that our proposal comprises a number of things. For example, it's a 3-track system. If you have support from the certain number of a certain proportion of the public, you can be nominated. The other track is party nomination, more or less 100,000 nominations or recommendations. The third track is the NC's nomination. That is, these 1,200 people could either choose, they can choose whoever they want. We are not getting in their way. That means we're in an unfair race. You can run freely. We may be subject to, we may have our feet tied. That's all right. We can make our own nominations, and then the 1,200 strong NC could make Lau Kwong-wah a candidate for the election. So there is no sense of unfairness in this matter. After the umbrella movement, I think maybe you haven't read the original proposal, so you've made this conclusion. Now, the plight faced by Hong Kong people today is that if we want to have universal suffrage in Hong Kong, we must ask ourselves what Hong Kong people think of universal suffrage. And according to the Communist Party, if they say that they could choose not to endorse the election result because they don't like the blank gatekeeping by blank vote option, then what's the point? You ask the NC to choose candidates to the liking of the Communist Party first.
They've made this very clear. Chief executive nominees cannot stand against the central government. So it's actually the other way around. If the central government wants to stand against the nominee, that nominee has to go. So frankly speaking, for our 3-track proposal or the 3-solution proposal, what loss they have, we are just imposing restrictions on ourselves because we need to receive 100,000 nominations while you don't. So how can you say that we are standing in the way? This is something I cannot understand. You said you will have 2 or 3 candidates or nominees. I think we can have even more nominees. Why is it? Why can't we choose a good CE if we have more nominees? I don't understand the logic. You might be expecting me to blame you or accuse you, but you're wrong. We used to have 1,200 people doing the choosing, and now we have 1,200 people doing the screening. It's the same. If you expect Hong Kong people to concede their interests, I can only say that the central government is wrong. Why can't we change the decision of the NPCSC? We are not talking about a decision by the NPC. We are not talking about an NPCSC decision. Why can't we change that? According to China's constitution, the decision can be changed. And my third point is, according to Article 158 of the Basic Law, the NPCSC only has the right to interpret it. So are you saying that the decision serves to interpret the Basic Law? If it serves to interpret the Basic Law, while before exercising its right to interpret the law, the NPCSC did not consult the Basic Law Committee members. So why can't we change that? So please enlighten me. Perhaps we won't have enough time for that. Do any members wish to ask questions? Our session will end at 8 p.m. Since we still have some time left, Dr. Kenneth Chen, if you'd like to respond, please raise your hand. Thank you, Chairman. We should clarify certain concepts to facilitate our discussions. The first is that the Undersecretary said we should allow the nominating committee to do the initial screening. And after the screening, you can conduct the one person, one vote. That's not called the initial voting. It's called screening. If you are trying to fool us, please be careful, because there's a difference between primary election and screening. Primary election refers to election within a party. If you think the nominating committee performs the same function as a political party in conducting primary election, you are mistaken. So after the screening, the nominees would be Communist Party members in disguise. So under the circumstances, we should not pocket this proposal. And the Undersecretary also mentioned that we attended an open hearing organized by the ICCPR in 2013 in Geneva, and under Article, we talked about Article 50 of the ICCPR. What the Undersecretary said seemed to be a repeat of what the ICCPR staff said, that you cannot screen out people with different political views. If this is what you truly believe, we cannot exclude candidates with political backgrounds. This is absurd. But now you're saying that the nominees cannot have political affiliations, but they can be affiliated with certain unions or groups simply because they don't call themselves a party. a lot of deputations said they should not be affiliated with political parties because they would be influenced by parties. So what about Xi Jinping? They, as the chairman of the country, he should not be politically affiliated. So this is unreasonable. But in the political melting pot of today, you are repeating things that you cannot believe yourself. So this is unreasonable. Hong Kong people still have dignity and they would like to speak the truth. And a deputation mentioned strategy. Why don't we take it on board first? It's part of the strategy. And some people have a theory that once you take the first step, then the next path or step will be clearer. But in order for this strategy to be successful, you must ask the government to come up with a roadmap and timeline of what they will do in the third, fourth, or fifth steps, etc. For example, when they will phase out the functional constituencies, you have to clarify what can be improved, how you can on how you can eliminate the screening process, etc. So don't just ask us to pocket it because it's meaningless. It's really deceiving. And if you think about it, it doesn't make sense. In 2012, when you think about the so-called super seats from the functional constituencies, the functional constituencies have still not been eliminated as of now. And the situation is very clear now. So if you use some reasoning, you would know what we have to do. Mr. Chong, would you like to respond? 2 minutes, please. I'd like to thank Dr. Kenneth Chen. It shows that you are familiar with Chinese culture, but your example was actually wrong. We are talking about what we said is that a universal suffrage of the CE is a milestone and it's a step towards democracy. I'm a local-born citizen and I have witnessed the changes of Hong Kong, and I have witnessed how Hong Kong was being destroyed by a small group of people, and we are depleting our own resources, and we lost 2.5 billion according to the PWSC because of filibustering. So you can see that the pro-democrats, why are they dragging down Hong Kong? Do they really want CY Leung to be re-elected by stopping the Hong Kong public from choosing their own chief executive? There might be internal struggles within themselves, but they are only speaking out of their own interests. If 5 million voters cannot choose their own chief executive, these pan-democrats can continue to retain their influence in the LegCo, in destroying the rules and in filibustering. I feel very sad. You have high salaries, but then you leave immediately after the meeting started. So, do you know how much the taxpayers have lost? And for the Hong Kong China Macau Bridge, because of an old lady, the entire EIA process was negated. How much money did we lose? Right now, this is a lose-lose situation. Mr. Sin, I'd like to respond to Mr. Leung Kwok Hong. He mentioned the three-track approach and why it is not viable. We need a balance in our society. We have to think about the stakeholders in our society. Apart from the grassroots families, we have many friends from different sectors. If we are too sentimental, then we don't even need to vote. A lot of countries, for example, European countries, they are very democratic. They have been practicing a democratic system for hundreds of years, and look at them. It doesn't work for them. You can think about China, and think about Mr. Thaksin and his sister. They are rich, of course, but what kind of system are they adopting? And they went from one person, one vote to a public-based voting system. So at the end, we are looking at they are ruled by the military, and they had a re-election. You have to respect our social pyramids. When I was young, I look forward to communism, a society for all. I'm not sure why you said you are opposing the Communist Party, but you are adopting their practice. Hong Kong has been a capitalist society, and we have been able to stay that way because we embrace the Lion Rock spirit. You said everyone should be able to vote. It's okay, but you always blame the functional constituencies. But by the same token, the geographic constituency legislators are able to vote against them. So we need the balance. So time's up. I would extend the meeting by 15 minutes to allow more people to speak. Mr. Chen Chi-ho. If you don't mind, we'll extend the meeting by 15 minutes. I know you're an academic, so I have one question for you. If you think the current proposal is not practicable, you can write an academic paper. Maybe the topic is that the political system is the cost of development is not a gradual process. Second round, perhaps we'll allow public deputations to speak. Mr. Wong Wing-kit. The Liberal Party, the Vice Chairman, Mr. Peter Shiu, what he said is actually same as the $14,000 theory. If you have the counter power, what about us? I cannot allow you to share my power. Mr. Leung Kwok Hong was very right. We have a 1,200 nomination committee, and they will pick someone who can get 300 votes. This is really deceiving. For example, if we come up with C.Y. Leung, Dr. N. Cheng, and Mr. Christopher Chong, do you think the 3 million or so voters in Hong Kong have a real choice? Right now, the pro-establishment camp and the government have tried to pressure the public to take this proposal on board first. If you are confident that you are listening to public views, can the Undersecretary organize a referendum or a questionnaire which is broadly representative of the public? Can you organize something like that in order to convince the public? If you can come up with such a proposal, I'm sure the Pan Democrats would not say no. But is the government prepared to do something like that? Of course, they won't do it because their so-called collective wish is only the collective wish of the of the pro-establishment camp and the government. Mr. Leung Kwok Hong, 3 minutes.
Now let me say this once again. For the three-track proposal, well, those who would become candidates through public nomination would actually be disadvantaged. So the three-track proposal will not cause candidates nominated by the NC to fail in the election. They will not be obstructed from taking part in the election. So you do your own judgment. Lau Kwong-wah's remarks are really of a very high standard. He has become the DAB's spokesman again. Let's put it simply that a nomination can be made on recommendation by 100,000. That's very simple. If you don't agree to 100,000, how about 200,000 recommendations? The 200,000 people are exercising their rights in recommending for the candidate to stand in the election. You don't need a platform. You don't need a platform to gauge public opinion again. Thirdly, this representatives of the Zhuangzi Association, I give you this response. Well, really, I may be a bit vulgar here because you make all the civilized remarks to hide your twisted logic. And you study Zhuangzi, you should understand that Zhuangzi always criticizes Confucius. So why does he do so? Why did he criticize Confucius with analogies? Because to some extent, well, I don't know whether he understands it or not, Zhuangzi was actually pointing out the twisted logic of Confucius. Now, my stance is very simple. Albert Ho is going to initiate a de facto referendum for the super seat. So please do initiate people from your camp to contest in the challenge. Otherwise, don't tell us that this is a leap, so on and so forth. I reiterate that we're only striving for one thing. That is, we ask the public what they think universal suffrage should be. As for the 5-step process, nobody can change it. Say, don't wait till we go into a restaurant before telling us what we should eat. Tell us in advance. Tell us in advance what kind of restaurant it is. If it's Iranian cuisine, then you should at least tell us whether would be served with beef or pork. Dr. Kenneth Chan, 3 minutes. Thank you, Chairman. I'm not going to ask any question. It's really difficult to find a chance to have a genuine exchange of opinion. In fact, I think even outside this council, such kind of exchange should continue. In particular, if you are interested in development of a political system, well, on Saturday I have a lecture on communism and post-communism, and I just had one lecture this morning, and I'm happy to share with you my views. And some may ask why the system will be involved to such a state that there is no freedom and no democracy. And I've written some, I've published some journals and articles as well. And I welcome you to sit in my class. For a sincere authority, it will treat constitutional development as something very solemn. It will respect people's views. And also on how everyone under the system will be safeguarded, will be protected, instead of finding shortcuts. So I often believe that if we have a clear political path, We won't change from communism to socialism to capitalism. In fact, in Europe, there is a joke about communism. You hold the violin on the left hand and you play music with the bow in your right hand. So how can you negotiate with them? You understand very well that this is a murderer, this is a loan shark. He has no mercy, and yet when he asks you to pocket it first, you should realize that this person has a very bad track record, and you should negotiate with him instead of siding with him. This is not what we would like to see in terms of how the political path unveils. And we also have, and we can also look back in history and learn more about that. So we should really ponder the issue with the history in mind. Well, it's a Saturday evening and the time is almost up, and Ms. Chen has raised her hand, so I'll give you 2 minutes. Well, originally I am not interested in politics, but in the past year I believe many will start to think these issues very carefully. Now, about the 1,200 members committee, and this is really a concern of the Pan-Democrats. They don't have confidence over the candidates nominated. They consider this a restriction. Sometimes when I chat with my father, who is a businessman living in Hong Kong without much political views, well, in fact, as long as the chief executive could really have people's livelihood in mind, it doesn't matter who should be the chief executive. Well, very often, for example, in a meeting, you may think that chairman may have all the say, but in fact, for the chairman, his duty is to allow all views to be expressed and to find a balance. So if you don't understand, since we haven't had this in the past, we might think that this person would become emperor. Perhaps you've watched too much drama about emperors. In fact, we can all make our voices heard. It's all about how we can translate the voices into action. This is important. So regardless of what the framework is, we're trying to look for a best way to implement the system. That is to allow somebody to become a candidate. You really need to screen out some in order for people to make choices. I'm sorry, I don't think we have time for others to speak. Sorry, Mr. Jim. And the Secretary, would you like to respond? I'd like to respond to a number of points. Just now, a member asked whether a public opinion poll would be conducted. There are already opinion polls not conducted by the government. The Chief Secretary has not ruled out the possibility of one being conducted by the government, and will consider it. I'd also like to respond to Dr. Kenneth Chan. He is very rational and calm over this matter, and this is a good thing. Even for elections in Western countries, they also have primary election. Since we have been sitting here since 9 this morning, it's now after 8 o'clock. I like him to think carefully. He is one of the members who is going to oppose this proposal, and I urge all members who are opposing to ponder this question very carefully. Why is it that if we have a proposal that allows 5 million eligible voters to vote in the election, why isn't this an improvement? from all angles, this is an improvement. I'd like the members opposing the proposal to think rationally and calmly and support our proposal. I thank everyone and thank Under Secretary for sitting here from 9. And I also thank deputations here for sacrificing their meal time to come and express their views. I thank the CMAB team. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.